What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Kids Talk Sports podcast. And on today's episode, I'm going to be talking about the college football playoff national championship game. And then to go along, I'm also going to be reviewing the two AFC Divisional Round NFL games and the two NFC Divisional Round playoff games. So let's get into it. And then I have a question of the week and shoutouts to give at the end of the episode. So first up, we'll start with the college football national championship game. This game took place last night. With Ohio State and Notre Dame playing for the national championship. Ohio State was the 8th seed, Notre Dame was the 7th seed. Ohio State did come out on top 34-23. They were favored by 8 points. It was pretty obvious that they were going to win. But at the start of the game, though, Notre Dame had a really good drive to start. It took 9 minutes. Riley Leonard had a rushing touchdown. And from that point, it looked like Notre Dame was going to have a shot at this game. But then Ohio State, Quinshon Judkins, the running back for Ohio State, he had a really good game. He had 2 rushing touchdowns, 1 receiving touchdown, so he had 3 touchdowns overall. And then to go along with Will Howard's 231 passing yards and 2 passing touchdowns. And his favorite target during that game was Jeremiah Smith, who had 88 receiving yards. And he had the biggest catch of the game, which was a 56-yard bomb on 3rd and 10 to seal the game for Ohio State. So Quinshon Judkins, running back for Ohio State, Will Howard, and Jeremiah Smith, they all played a big key in the playoff run for Ohio State, and especially this game. Riley Leonard, quarterback for Notre Dame, had 255 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, and 1 rushing touchdown. He had a really, really good season. Jaden Greathouse also stepped up really big in this game with 6 receptions for 128 yards and 2 receiving touchdowns. But it was just too little too late for Notre Dame. They were down 31-7 going into fourth quarter. Jaden Greathouse got a 30-yard receiving touchdown. They got a 2-point conversion to make it 31-15. Then they got a stop, and with about 6 minutes left, Jaden Greathouse got another 30-yard receiving touchdown, and they got the 2-point conversion to make it 31-23. And then Ohio State had the ball up by 8, 3rd and 10 at their own 30-yard line with a little bit over 2 minutes to go. And Will Howard threw a bomb to Jeremiah Smith. He came down with it, and that's eventually sealed the game. Ohio State would go on to kick a field goal and take the dub 34-23. So I did get this prediction wrong. I predicted Notre Dame. I wanted Notre Dame to win, but I think a lot of people just wanted Notre Dame to win. Even though a lot of people thought this Ohio State team, though, they're just really, really stacked. They've got really good offense. They have a 3-headed monster, and they also their running back room is really, really good with Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson. Then to go along with their really good defense with Caleb Downs, and they just have a lot of lockdown corners, guys that can be put on islands. So I think this Ohio State team, I think Ryan Day, the head coach, did a really good job of bringing guys in from the transfer portal and just bringing this team together after, I think, that Michigan loss. If that Michigan loss didn't happen, obviously they would be put in a whole different situation. They would have been playing in the Big Ten championship. But I think that Michigan loss is the reason they won the national championship. I think that just fueled them. So Ohio State comes out on top 34-23 to win the national championship in the first ever 12-team playoff. And next we'll move on to the NFL. First game we're going to review, this was a really surprising game. We've got the Commanders versus the Lions, the 6 versus the 1. The Commanders did end up upsetting the Lions 48-35 in an offensive shootout. Jaden Daniels, the rookie quarterback for the Commanders, had 299 passing yards and 2 passing touchdowns. And then Brian Robinson, the running back for the Commanders, had 2 rushing touchdowns. And the surprising thing for me about this Commanders team, they didn't turn the ball over once. But on the other side of things, the Lions turned the ball over 5 times. Jared Goff had 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions, 300 passing yards. Jamison Williams on a trick play threw an interception. And Jared Goff also had a fumble. So Jared Goff had 4 turnovers. And then to go along with Jamison Williams' 1 turnover. That ended up being 5 turnovers for the Lions, and that was the deciding factor on why they lost this game. Jahmyr Gibbs had 105 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. But the Commanders they played really good. De'Ami Brown had 6 receptions for 96 receiving yards. He has really been clutch in the past 2 playoff games for the Commanders. Just a little upcoming star there with De'Ami Brown. But just the main reason the Commanders won this game is they had no turnovers. The Lions had 5 turnovers, so I think it's a completely different outcome if the Lions could have taken care of the ball. But they didn't, and the Commanders, Jaden Daniels, this might be the best rookie season I've ever seen out of a rookie. This might be the best rookie season of all time in the NFL history. I mean, if he can lead them, I think he can lead them to win a Super Bowl in his rookie season, that would be insane for the city of Washington. So the Commanders take down the Lions 48-35, and they advance to play the Eagles in the NFC Championship. Next game, we've got the Texans versus the Chiefs, and everyone knew how this was going to go. We all knew the Chiefs was going to win. They did end up winning 23-14, and it was mostly just the refs and the Chiefs against the Texans. Patrick Mahomes had 177 passing yards and 1 passing touchdown to go along with Travis Kelce's 117 receiving yards and 1 receiving touchdown. But this was just the refs versus the Texans. Kaimi Fairbairn, the kicker for the Texans, he struggled with 2 missed field goals and a missed extra point. But Joe Mixon had a good game with 88 rushing yards and 1 rushing touchdown. CJ Stroud also had 245 passing yards. But it was just really sad to see the refs. They gave him some unnecessary roughness calls, some roughing the passer calls that were insane. It's just the Chiefs might be. I think the Chiefs are impossible. No matter who their quarterback is, just the Chiefs are impossible to beat in the playoffs. Playoff Mahomes is impossible to beat, but the Chiefs come out on top 23-14. They advance to play the Bills in the AFC Championship. And then for the second NFC Divisional Round game, this was a pretty good game. We've got the Eagles versus the Rams. The Eagles ended up coming out on top 28-22. Matthew Stafford had 324 passing yards and 2 passing touchdowns to go along with Kyren Williams, 106 rushing yards. But the star of this game, the star of the whole season for the Philadelphia Eagles, was Saquon Barkley. He had a 78-yard rushing touchdown to basically seal the game for the Eagles. He had 205 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. And there's a crazy stat that I wanted to share. He had, I think it was 524 total scrimmage yards in the 2 games he played against the Rams. He played them in the playoffs, and then he played them in, I think, week 9. And he had a total of 524 scrimmage yards, which was absolutely insane. Jalen Hurts didn't really have a good game. He didn't have a passing touchdown. He did have a rushing touchdown, but I think Saquon Barkley he's going to go down as, if they can make the Super Bowl, Saquon Barkley is going to go down as a Philly legend, and it would be awesome to see Saquon Barkley win a Super Bowl after all those years that he spent with the Giants, just going 3-14 every year. So Eagles defeat the Rams 28-22 to advance to play the Commanders, in which I think will be an offensive shootout, just like the Commanders and Lions was. And then for the last NFL divisional game, could have been people might say it was the best one. We've got the Ravens versus the Bills. The Bills ended up winning this game 27-25. Lamar Jackson had 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, and a costly fumble that was picked up and taken back for 6 for the Bills. Derrick Henry, 84 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown. Josh Allen for the Bills had 2 rushing touchdowns, and the deciding factor in this game, Mark Andrews. So it's 27-25. The Ravens just got a touchdown to Isaiah Likely. 27-25. Lamar rolls out to the right, throws to Mark Andrews, and in the snowy, wet, rainy, whatever you want to call it, conditions, Mark Andrews drops the ball. He dropped the 2-point conversion to lose the game for the Ravens. They could not end up getting the onside kick, and the Buffalo Bills go on to advance to the AFC Championship. It was really sad to see, but the Ravens, the turnovers killed them in the game, just like the Lions. They had too many turnovers. Lamar had 2 turnovers. If they would have taken care of the ball, that would have been an easy win. But Mark Andrews with that drop, that really just cost them the game. So the Bills defeat the Ravens 27-25. And to wrap up this episode, I have a question of the week for you guys. So for this week's question of the week, it is, what are your predictions for the NFC and AFC championship games? Again, for this week's question of the week, it is what are your predictions for the NFC and AFC championship games? And I'm going to have another episode coming out soon this week to talk about my predictions for the NFC and AFC championship games, and then might throw in some college basketball for that episode. But I have some shout-outs to give before we end off this episode. So the first shout-out goes to Aiden, who thought that the winners going to the championship were going to be Notre Dame and Texas. Shout-out to Aiden. Second shout-out goes to Dylan, who said thought that Notre Dame will beat Penn State and Ohio State will beat Texas. So you got both those predictions right. So shout-out to Dylan. The next shout-out goes to Luke, who said their prediction for the national championship was Notre Dame 35, Ohio State 34. So shout-out to Luke. Thank you for answering the question of the week. And this next shout-out goes to Ezra, who predicted that Notre Dame was going to win over Ohio State with a score of 46-38. So shout-out to Ezra. Thank you so much. And the last shout-out goes to Reed, who said Notre Dame for the Natty. So shout-out to all you guys for answering this week's question of the week. And if you want a shout-out on the podcast, you can answer a question of the week. And as always, thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you next time. Peace.